Welcome one and all to the DL debate. Thanks so much now for tuning in. Joe Dex is keeping me right here as ever, producing the show this evening. I'm in studio with a legend of Donegal GA. I'm going to introduce him now in a minute. But first of all, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our hurlers yesterday. I was in O'Donnell Park for what was an absolutely phenomenal performance against Fermanagh, but particularly second half performance. And after watching a lot of sport the last couple of weeks, you do well to get a better game than that. Donegal off to a cracking start in the Nicky record, beating Fermanagh. A couple of tricky away games to Armagh and Roscommon now, followed by home games to Louth and Wicklow, and we're hoping that they can reach the final. As I say, I have a special guest in studio here. He's looking at me now. He is a legend of Donegal football, St Michael's man who's been there and done it all. It's the one and only Colm McFadden. Colm, welcome to DL Debate.
Thanks, Brendan. Good to be here.
Great to have you here, Colm. Great to have you here. Listen, you are doing many things at the minute, Colm. Before we get to your amazing football career, of course, you're married to lovely Lavina. You have 3 kids. First and foremost, don't we? Before we talk about anything, that's busy enough.
First,
That's busy enough.
Yeah, no, it's busy. All right, and I suppose the kids are at an age now where they're going to different things, different Irish dancing and football, soccer. So you're running all the time with them, and then there's a bit of coaching going on as well. I was up with the 20s there for a couple of months, and unfortunately they were beat by Derry in the semi-final of the Ulster Championship there the weekend before last, and I'm down with Sligo as well, a couple of nights a week. So it's busy now, but it's
Vice Principal at St Eunan's, you're passing on the education to everybody, the next generation of players, the next generation of young lads.
Yeah, I'm up in the college, and I suppose I've been in the college since I was 12 years old. Went away for a couple of years to college and that, and I came back and I've been there since. And now it's good up there, and I suppose the sport up there is always a big part of it. And I think this year in particular, but I think it was 69 came out for the soccer trials for first year, and I think 73 came out for the Gaelic trials. So sports, I think most kids now all get involved in sport and are encouraged to get involved playing soccer and Gaelic. So
yes,
that's reflected in the numbers that turned out for the teams this year, and in fairness to the standard, there's on displays really high. So yeah, that's good.
Have you ever played hurling?
No, I often thought I'd like to play hurling, but then when I seen the shape of some of the boys' hands and that, I thought I'm happy enough there's no hurling in Donegal.
Well,
but
do you know what? I'd say you could handle any game, Colm. You just had that natural skill about you to say. I was out yesterday covering that match in the park, and you know what? I talk about 2 teams going at it. I know the tactics of a lot of sport now, particularly the one that we are most invested in, football, means that it can cut down space, and you can hamper teams playing. You can't do that in hurling just because of the range of it. But as I say, Donegal were up against it yesterday, and I say whatever Mickey McCann did at half time, he brought on a few subs, he reshuffled things, and certainly say Liam McKinney had a magic game. His goal pivotal in the second half, and Declan Coulter kicking on with the last scores of the game to see Donegal across the line. Now after the match, I caught up with man of the match Liam McKinney to see what he made of the proceedings. Yes, I'm here in O'Donnell Park with Liam McKinney. 11 for Donegal today. I have him down as 1-6. He's not too sure because he was too invested in the game. He was my man of the match. Liam, what did you make it? A phenomenal game.
Yeah, it was a very tough game. We put ourselves in a tough position at half time. We didn't play well at all in the first half, but then so it was the second half we turned up a bit better and we pushed on and we got the win in the end, thankfully.
Yeah, 4 points behind at half time. Fermanagh, of course, relegated. We were in the league final. We were at home. Everybody was expecting a performance, but Fermanagh really came with that bit of championship buzz in the first half. Yeah,
that's right. Championship it's a different story to the league, really, and when you look at some of the Fermanagh results, they only lost by 1 or 2 points in some of the games, so it was I'd say it was an unfair position for them to finish in Division 3A, but we knew what we were facing, but it was great to get a turnaround in the second half anyway, like you said. Yeah,
and the likes of Garland and Lafferty coming on give you a bit. He kicked Garland stroked over a couple of scores as well, and I suppose give you a wee bit of injection in that second half.
Yeah, that's right. The subs were crucial today. A lot of them only coming back from injury, so it's great to have them back in, because we wouldn't have had them in the league towards the end, but now they're big additions to come the championship.
Yeah.
So.
And listen, you kept us taking over in the game, and of course that goal was pivotal. But Declan Coulter, you just seen at the end, you know, he's had a stop-start season, but I mean, again, his experience later on, just tagging over them scores, giving us that bit of breathing space.
Yeah, that's right. Declan, he's been a great servant to Donegal in the last number of years, and it's great to see him back injury free and playing well there today. So it is, and along with all the rest of the forwards, done well enough today as well.
And it was his sideline puck, of course, across. His difficult skill, but it went right that back post. Yeah. But can you talk us through the goal?
Well, I suppose it came across. Declan had on the sideline. It came off somebody's hurley, and then it landed in front of me, and I sort of controlled it in the stick and just managed to squeeze it in at a tight angle. So I'm not really sure how it's.
At that point, we were desperate for that, because we were trailing them. We didn't look like we were going to be able to catch up that lead. So that goal just injected a lot of life into this. Was a real turning point in the game.
Yeah, that's right. I was very happy to get it, and we did manage to push on after that. A lot of the other players, I think some of the Fermanagh heads dropped, because they, of course, were the man down in the second half, and you could see they were starting to fade then after that goal. Yeah,
and do you think, listen, not taking away from our second half performance, particularly them closing 12 minutes or whatever, but do you think that extra man started to make legs a bit weary? We did seem to come into the game more, but it's hard to know whether that was a defining factor.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I'd say it was really, and I suppose we made a few subs closer to the end as well, like of Jerry Gilmore coming on, and a few others as well came on, so that's probably helped as well towards the situation. And
I'm just looking at the schedule here for you in the group stages. Of course, you have 2 tricky away games now, Armagh, Roscommon, Louth and Wicklow, then at home. It's basically 5 games in 6 weeks. I'm just looking at the way we were. Is it hard to get into championship mode with so many games like that? You know what I mean? You play league like that, but they play championship like that. It can be difficult to get that fire into the game.
Yeah, well, I suppose the games come thick and fast, and you just have to take every game in your stride, because it's their most important games, the championship, like. So we'll take a lot of learning from that their game today, and hopefully we'll bring it into the next game and keep pushing forward then.
Yeah, and listen, you're stroking over the freeze. I mean, someone of Coulter's brilliance on the pitch, you're still taking the freeze. That's a big vote of confidence to yourself.
Yeah, I suppose I took them towards the end of the league when he was injured, so I've been left on them then today.
I'm sure you don't mind if he takes it off.
Nah, I don't mind. As long as they go over, that's all I care about.
Yeah, well done, Liam McKinney and the Donegal team. Colm, before we get to this amazing story of yours, I have a few questions for you. Just at the weekend, did you catch the Ulster Championship games? What did you make of them? Particularly, obviously, the Derry game was a bit of a foregone conclusion. Poor crowd at Brewster, Derry doing what they do. Strange tactics for Fermanagh, first of all, but there wasn't much to be learned from it, was there?
No, I suppose it was an expected result, and I thought Fermanagh did a good league campaign and they came up from Division 3 along with Cavan, and I thought they actually would have put up a more stern test against Derry than they did, but I think Derry got a couple of early goals in the first half, and that it really put Fermanagh to bed. I suppose obviously Derry was expected. They're the farm team coming into it, and they're the team that everybody's talking about in Ulster, so yesterday's game now, I caught the last 10 minutes of it. We're down a Sligo yesterday morning, so I travelled back up and I got 5 minutes before the end and then the 6 minutes of stoppage time, but it seemed to be a very open game, and it was unlike Postmon and Tyrone when they're playing Ulster football. They're usually defence is their first priority, and then attacks the second one. But
could you believe the scoreline? I mean, 1-18 to 2-17. I thought it was going to be really cagey. You mightn't see it break out till the last 15. I mean, it was phenomenal performance. Tyrone seemed to, the last All-Ireland one, they kind of went man for man. They opened up, they kicked past the ball, and their talent up front got them across the line. That's what they did in the first half, really. But Monaghan regrouped. You'd have to hand it to Vinnie Corey in the way he made changes, particularly like Conor McCarthy going back into a deeper role, running from deep himself, and Bannigan coming on the loop. They just seemed to be able to take on and beat their men. Of course, I mean, O'Toole's finish, there's not many people. I think you would have done that. There's not many people would have tried that.
I was watching it, and I thought when Tyrone got the point that they'd close up shop and see out the last minute of the game, but I couldn't get over how easy Monaghan got inside the 45, and when they got inside the 45, two more passes and your man was through for a goal, and I thought, here we go, we're going to extra time, he'll tap that over the bar. And when he shot low and hard, I couldn't believe it, and I would say the other 14 Monaghan players in the field were thinking, what's this man not going for a goal? But unbelievably it went in, and he got some pace in it, in fairness, but I think Morgan will probably be disappointed that he was beat at the near post, but it was a brave decision to take.
But for a man on his debut, and a defender, I mean, it was a phenomenal thing in his head. I mean, you got to admire the lad for doing it. I mean, sometimes I suppose when you look at, there's a chance for you to do something special. Now the safe money was on the fist over the bar, and I think actually Monaghan might have won it anyway. They were playing the better football.
Yeah,
but
they seem to be creating a lot more chances. You know, when they're the kickouts, Tyrone didn't seem to be putting any pressure on it, or they're trying to put pressure on it, but they were struggling to pick up ball on the Monaghan kick-out, and Tyrone are having to work really hard for those scores at the end of the game, whilst Monaghan seemed to be coasting in quite easily. So you probably would have seen them going on, but it kind of reminded me of a finish. We're down when we played Mayo in the league game down in Cork, or down in Mayo many years ago, and I think where they were a point or two down, and him McGee picked the ball up on the 20-yard line and he swung the left boot into the top corner. So it was a defender thing that it can happen now.
Just had it as hard as you can, is what you're saying there, Colm. Colm, listen, you know, that's the other couple of games in Ulster. What about our own boys? I suppose we're trying to get some kind of positivity going into the championship, because I'm very weary of, you know, we have a raft of injuries, players stepping away, players not committing to the team. I mean, it's been a real tough season for so many reasons. But you know, we've a group of young lads in there. We want to try and get behind them. It's very hard, I suppose. How do you see this mission now going up to Park Esler this week in this Ulster game?
I suppose it's been a difficult couple of months there for Donegals and the senior team in particular. But you know, when I look at that Down game, I'm actually quite confident, and I have faith in the boys that they will get a result up there. I know, I suppose, Down under new management, they've made strides in the right direction this year as well. But I think our Donegal team, even though there are a couple of injuries and a couple of boys stepped away in that, they still have a good calibre of players throughout their panel. And I'd be confident they can go up to Down, although it will be really difficult. I still think they can get a result up there.
Yeah.
I suppose just that wee bit of confidence and belief, and hopefully they have that in themselves, that they can go up and get a result. But you know, I think when you look at Donegal, they still have massive men across the middle third, and I think when you have that in any team, you know, you can get a platform and kickouts. You know, we talked about Tyrone there a wee minute ago, that they couldn't get a foothold in the Monaghan kickouts in that second half at all. Whilst I think Donegal can put pressure against any team on their kickout, and when you do that, you know, it can give you a foothold into a game. And you know, hopefully they believe in themselves and they back themselves and they do go up and get a result, because you know, I think I would really love to see them get a one up there, and I think everyone in Donegal would as well, just to deserve it. And you know, hopefully they stick together and they keep going at it.
Yeah. And listen, Big Began was an awesome presence in that second half. Listen, Mooney's injured for them. O'Hagan's injured. They have a few injury problems. Is there a man you know well up doing a bit of coaching there now? A young lad, McGuinness. Is that true or is it false, or can you comment?
I haven't heard anything about that now, but I must the first. I'll ring him on the way home to see if there's any truth to that.
The word is there was a few sessions been taken, but listen, anyway, we'll
find that man turned up anywhere.
We'll see.
But,
we'll see, Colm. We'll see. Listen, great stuff, Colm. As I say, what a career, Colm. We know all, of course, about the brilliant Ulster Championships of 11, 12 and 14, the All Ireland. Your All-Star, which was well deserved, and I think you should have had a couple more in the mix there. You know, getting the final of 14, even won a wee National League along with myself in 2007, rolling back the years, boy. But tell me, Colm, taking it right back to the start, you know, I'm always interested to see where the football started. You know, you grew up in Creasla, of course. Your dad would have been big into sport, Colm, Marjorie, me and Shane even played at the Tech together. Yeah. You know, Yvonne, Anton, like sport was big in the house, and you took it up from the start.
I suppose it always was, and you know, there was no soccer down our way at that time. It was just all Gaelic, and I suppose Dad got involved in coaching, and Old Toy would have been involved in those teams as well, and many more coaches, and you know, a lot of work went into us at that age group, and the Parish League was set up, which would have helped us a lot, and you know, with a good calibre of player came along, and thankfully I was in a very good underage team coming up through, and you know, Christie, I suppose in particular, was in that age group, and a number of others, like, and it was a great time, because most Michaels didn't have much success over years prior to that. They would have won an odd under 14B and under 18B titles here and there. I think when we came along, we won an under 12B, and then the following year we won an under 12A, which was the first ever in the club. So you know, it was a good time for the club, and kind of pushed on the years after that, and we would have challenged a bit. Donegal Town would have came out on top of us a lot of the time and beat us in a lot of finals the whole way up through it, but thankfully in the under 21 championship then we came out, we beat them in the quarter final, and we went on to beat Glenswilly in the final. So but football was always a big part of our life there.
Yeah, good memories. Was yourself and the Toy Boy there, you were joined at the hip at that point? You know, the two years were going to be some of the best players we ever produced. His father and your dad were coaching and Donegal came calling pretty quick. You won a Ted Webb, didn't you? Which was a big thing at the time. Colm, in terms.
That was we played in the Ted Webb for 2 years. It was under 16, wasn't I? Under 16.
Yeah.
We played the year before, and then the second year we won it. Martin McHugh was a manager in that. And I suppose when we were younger, like me and Christy always had a good relationship. We always played well together, and I knew when he was about to kick the ball, or I knew where to run to when he had the ball. With that understanding, I suppose you get from playing together over the years. But I suppose we didn't really expect to go on and play for the county or whatever. We were going out and enjoying our football. But I remember when I was young watching the 92 team, and I suppose in particular Tommy Ryan was from over our neck of the woods. All the other county players were very far away in our eyes back then, but we looked up to them boys and watched them on TV and listened to the radio, Highland Radio, and Charlie Collins, and listened to them playing every week and that. And
it's funny you mentioned Tommy Ryan, because I was chatting to Big Brian earlier. Of course, that's Brian McLaughlin, to anybody who isn't aware who the Big Brian is. I think everybody does know. Yeah. We were just reminiscing about you and Tommy Ryan with the two left foots up in the bar in the Central.
Yeah.
Who had the best left foot?
Well, Tommy always had the left foot up, and I always looked at it, I thought someday maybe be as good as Tommy's. But no, I was I remember watching him in the Tommy Ryan, which used to be a big competition back then, and I remember going out to watch him in Termon playing, and he's the only county player we would have seen about our way, as I said, and you can aspire to be like them then whenever there's not many about.
Yeah. And tell me, you were going to St Eunan's. I think you played quite a few years at minor there as well, didn't you? It was.
We played 3 years. Myself and Christy and Michael Maguire from Glencolmkill played for minor for 3 years. The first year we actually got to an Ulster final. We drew with Down in the Ulster final. They beat us in the replay. Then I think it was 2-7-9. And Down went on to win the All Ireland that year. That's Benny Coulter and Michael Walsh and a number of other players that went on to good careers with Down after that. That was a very good minor team, and Anthony Malloy is actually in charge of it. So it was and James McHugh was involved, and Shawnee Boyle. So for us going into that as 16-year-olds, it was something special. These are the boys that you watched back in '92, and you looked up to when you're younger. So
yeah. So there was a good group of players coming through at that time. You were successful or knocking on the door of success. There's many a minor team that come through from Donegal at that time where were also rans, but you had a good group of players.
That was a good team there, I suppose. And the next 2 years with good teams, but we didn't actually. I think we only got to the quarter final maybe. And Fermanagh beat us 1 year, and Monaghan beat us the next year, so we didn't really push on. But if you take the age group, my final year that Monaghan beat us, I think there's something like 8 or 9 of them went on to play county senior, which is a serious number for one year group to go on and play. Yeah.
And tell me, the club then come on the back of some of you boys coming through. You went on a huge run, 2003, wasn't it, in terms of intermediate? You went all the way to the All Ireland intermediate final. What age were you then?
2003 was it? So it was 19, 20. 19. Christy was the same age and that. But now with a good campaign. We were in Division 2 that year. I think we went the whole campaign. We won every single game in the league, and the intermediate obviously went on to win that. And the following after Christmas, then I went on to an All Ireland series, and we won it up in Clontibbert. They used to host the competition. And went on and we beat Dundalk Gales, I think, in the semi-final. Then Cork team pipped us in the final. They beat us well, actually. Their experienced side. But no, it was a good campaign. So we won Division 2 that year. We went up to Division 1, and unfortunately then they changed the leagues that year, so we ended up the leagues were 4 neutral leagues, and then we ended up back down in Division 2 again after it, so it took a few more years to get back up to Division 1.
Yeah. And tell me, obviously Donegal were going to come knocking. That was just where life was to be. What was it like in those early years coming in to Donegal? Because there's been so much talk, nearly as much talk about them days than the days that were to follow, because there was a bunch of lads that probably shouldn't have been, not they shouldn't have been together, but they shouldn't have been together on a night out, put it like that. But listen, that was a kind of a team you coming in. We had a lot of good players. We won an odd big match. I mean, particularly I think for you, probably a game against Tyrone and Clones, Colm, where you shot the lights out. I think that was a big match for you personally, but you were always, it was only a matter of time before you broke into the Donegal team.
I was supposed to, there's no doubt about it, there's quality players there, and I think that's one thing we're blessed with. And even we speak about the current panel, even though those boys stepped away, there's still real quality about there. And I suppose that team that I came in 2001 or 2002, there's real good players there, and we had the capability of beating big teams, and we did every single campaign. We would beat one of the big teams, but it was stringing results together and beating 2 or 3 in a row that we just couldn't get that consistency.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at, I suppose football's changed a lot from now till then, and I think now there's a lot. Teams are just, the fitness levels of every team and the way they're prepared from S&C coaches and keeping an eye on GPS and all that, correct? They're fit all year round. But going back to that team now, it was a real good team. You know, it's a pity we just didn't just push on that wee bit more and get that wee bit of success.
Listen, you can make excuses for it. I mean, you're the best throwing Armagh teams maybe that ever were. That's one tight issue, but that's not good enough, because I think the structure, and I just mentioned it there when you come up this evening, that just at your age range when Jim would come in, I think you were just ready for that real professional side. You just needed someone to direct us. But at that time, Colm, there was some signs in there, you know, particularly, as I say, I know it was only a league, but even in that league, I think that we kind of seen that we can match up to teams, but we just didn't know how to get to that next stage. You know, it wasn't, you know yourself, we all trained as hard as we could. Yeah. But then if we lost a game and then there was a few weeks to a back door or something, you know, all hell would break loose, as you know. So things happen in there that shouldn't. But once the door was left ajar, as the man says, everybody was away hammer and tongs. So I guess in that time, Colm, you probably seen, as you said there was times we knew we could beat anybody, but the consistency wasn't there. And then when the consistency's not there, Colm, I think when you're up against it, then you've nothing to fall back on. I think that's the thing that probably just in that era was missed. Yeah, exactly. I suppose, like, I know when we came back for that first season I was involved, I think we got to an All-Ireland quarter-final and Dublin beat us in a replay handsomely, right enough, but the next year then I think we got to the semi-final of the All-Ireland. So, you know, I suppose when I was young, when I came in, I thought this is the way it is every year. You get to the quarter-final and semi-final, and unfortunately then the next couple of years with a bit of a lull, and you realise that's not the way it is all the time. But you know, I think sometimes when things are going bad or you're not being as successful as you should be, sometimes you learn a lot in that period of time. And you know, I think that stood to us younger players, that we had that hunger to get back to a quarter-final and semi-finals, and you know, those couple of barren years after that we got a real hunger. And I remember being in the gym along with Kevin, and we were making up gym programs ourselves and doing it for a couple of weeks, and then you'd be wondering, you're doing the right thing, and you change it out, and we're chatting and saying, geez, we'd love some man to come in and you know, tell us what to do, and we'll train twice a day, 3 times a day, we'll do whatever's needed. And you know, thankfully Jim came along then at that time and was there to guide us. And I think the timing was good that for us that he came in, and he got us at a good time as well, that he had a panel of players that are real hungry to work and do whatever was needed. Aye, listen, Colm, it was an absolutely phenomenal time. Just before we get there though, we have to just mention the lows that was there in terms of just pre that, particularly the likes of that game in Armagh, of course, Colm, when, you know, we had the basis of a decent side, but we were completely like I suppose we'd completely listless as a team in terms of what our focus was, what we were going to do. I mean, that's the reason I think Armagh kept beat us. They had a defined way of playing. They were hard to play against. They were physical. They were doing the weights. They were prepping. They were analysing games. We weren't doing any of that. So, you know, you seen Donegal that day really, really crash again against Armagh. How did you feel about that time, Colm? What age were you then? About 26? Were you 27? 27 that year. Did you feel like leaving there at that time, you know, this is as far away as ever for us? Or what was the thoughts at that time? No, I suppose it's natural. Everything goes through your head when things aren't going well. You think of everything. But, you know, I don't think for me, walking away from football was ever an option. I think you develop a lot of resilience when you go through things like that. And, you know, I knew that after that, no matter how tough things were, that I was never going to walk away or step away from it. I'd keep battling away. And, you know, I think that stood to me then in the years after that. That I was able to keep going. And, you know, I suppose there was a lot of criticism and a lot of negativity towards, I suppose, myself and towards a lot of the players. There was that thing, remember, where you come off the thing and there was the camera shot on you and somebody made a wee remark to you and you just gave them a half smile. Like, people played up in that, and I think that was kind of things going on around then now that, you know, it seemed, Colm, say we lost a game and there was boys in seen out in the session. Like, if you won that match, nobody cared. And I think that's the thing. People then look for reasons to get at. People thought that was very unfair at the time, that people were singling out something at, because that was a teammate. Somebody probably said something a wee bit smart to you. So you were only being a teammate. But just because you're smiling, or just a passed away comment. I think maybe there's someone up in the what do you call it? What was the comment? Somebody went up
I think it was announced that I was to get a 100th game or something, that I was getting the thing, and I was smiling, said that was convenient or whatever.
Well, do you know
camera
what?
shot on to me.
I didn't know that, Colm. Honestly, maybe I did and I've forgotten actually. But you know what? In my 100th game, we get hammered as well. So there you go.
So
That's what we think of in common.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you know what, Colm? That was just the worst that it was going to be at that point, Colm, and it was going to phenomenally turn for you and for Donegals and for everybody involved. We're going to get that after this break.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're more than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Board Mona.
Preparing for a special occasion? Sorrento Shoes has the finishing touch. Shoes and bags in pastel shades, bling or classic neutrals. Sorrento Shoes. Available in all leading shoe stores.
Hello, how can I help you?
I'm looking to claim on my insurance policy.
Okay, and what type of chip do you need to claim for?
It's not a chip. I was in a minor accident.
And was your windscreen chipped in this accident?
No, it's just my backlight and the bumper.
So your windscreen is not chipped?
No.
Unfortunately, our policies only cover chips.
Do you get the feeling that you're not getting the right cover? Well, at Local Insurance, we are Irish owned and understand your needs. Call us today for a bespoke quote on 0818 894 444. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
April is a time for wellness, so why not treat yourself at the award-winning V-Spa, set within the confines of the 4-star Villa Rose Hotel Ballybuffet. As a sanctuary of relaxation, the V-Spa specialises in advanced skincare and facials, together with chemical pills and microneedling. This April, the V-Spa have created a collection of spa packages that will leave you feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. View the spring spa packages and overnight escapes online today on villarose.ie.
The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back to the DL Debate. I'm in the middle of life stories here with Colm McFadden, and we've just got past a rough time in Donegals' evolution in terms of their championship play. It was 2010. And we were at a low ebb. We've just discussed it there, Colm. You just passed your 100th game, and we're wondering what's coming next. And who was coming next? But the bro-in-law was deciding to come in after a very good under-21 campaign where they got the All-Ireland final. Did you know in-house that this was going to happen? I mean, as all Donegal people, I thought, get him in as soon as. Did you know from talking to him that he was going to take the job or go for the job?
I can't really remember now, but I think he would have been chatting about it and that, and everyone knew that they're in the back of a good under-21 campaign after getting one in Ulster and getting to an All-Ireland final. So, as players we were kind of excited, and we would have been talking to under-21 players and heard what he was at, and the training was it was tough, and they were well organised and well drilled, and you even know to look at them. I remember going up to Brewster Park to watch them that under-21 campaign, and the pace the boys were playing with, in the counter attack coming out of defence, and that was something else. And for us it was just exciting. We're praying that he was going to get the job, and thankfully he did get it, and it was good times then after it.
Listen, everything was going to change. Football changed forever on the back of that. That famous Downings, isn't it Downings, where the initial meeting was?
Aye, that's right.
Where he met everybody individually and started to strip it back, and I suppose get rid of those scars that were hanging there the last couple of years, Colm, and get us focused, training fit. Adam Spear was on, of course, as well for the real S&C push. Did you feel there and then, Colm, even from them early days, there's going to be a big change here? When did you start to feel this will change? Because the rate that it changed was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it happened in year one, Ulster and All-Ireland semi.
No, it was crazy how quick it happened. Now, I suppose obviously our confidence was on the floor, and Jim was telling us what he's going to do and where he's going to take us. And
did you believe him?
We did believe him, but part of you didn't believe him either, because we knew where we were at, and we knew that we could see what Armagh did as the previous year, and they didn't win Ulster, and we could see where Tyrone are at and all these teams, and that was where we had to try and get to match them. But you know, we wanted to believe him, but you know, once the training started and things started to build, and you could see the difference in intensity of training, you could see they were starting to get fitter. You know, I've always a vivid memory of the first league game was actually against Sligo up in Ballybofey.
I remember it.
And
8 down at one stage, wasn't
I
it?
think it ended up 2-6 to 12, I think, and I think they got 2 goals early in the first half. And I remember we were shooting up to the River End that night, and I remember thinking, things haven't changed at all. Yes. You know, it's still the same old, and we're still way off the pace. And the next thing, we got a couple of scores, and things started to change, and we came through. Then I think at the end of the game, then I remember put a ball into Murphy, and I think he laid it off. I'm not sure, he kicked it over the bar, and we got an equalising score. Yeah. And you know, that was a massive result to show that it was against Sligo, but to show that we didn't throw in the towel. We kept battling, we kept going. Yeah. We came back and got a draw, and then I think we went on. We won the next 5 league games. We're qualified for the league final, and then Laois beat us down in Laois in the last game, but we're already through anyway. But that first game is always, that's the one game in that league that I do remember.
And tell me, the training obviously was up now. Michael Haney was talking to him yesterday, the famous Mac. He obviously came on the back of you and Toy. You know, Big Brian was obviously there already. Of course, we have to say as well, you know, you had 6 players in all. Your bro came in there, and
Peter Wallero,
Peter and
Daniel McLaughlin.
Daniel, of course, yeah, that's right. So there's a massive St Michael's crew involved. But what was the story with this fat camp? Were you in this fat camp that I'm hearing about?
I think I was just there to keep Frank McGlynn and Martin McGlynn and them boys company. Just I don't know how I could label it the fat camp part now, but
you didn't look at the media anyway, I'll tell you that much.
I was the first man on the list, I think, always. We did. I remember 2012, like we used to train, and training was tough, but we'd train Tuesday, Thursday, and the Wednesday morning would be the gym, and Friday morning would be the gym. And you know, come 2012, it was around March time, and my fitness level still wasn't where Jim wanted them to be, so and the gym was going well enough. So on the Wednesday morning, instead of going to the gym, I'd go over and get changed. The boys would go upstairs and do their gym session. I'd head out to Letterkenny Gales pitch and go running with Adam Spear. Yes. And this was after a 2.5 hour session the night before, so we would have done that for maybe, I think it was 3-4 weeks just before the championship. But the difference it made to my fitness was crazy.
That is some commitment, Colm. And was everybody buying into this in terms of the bond was starting to be created through the hard training? You know, when you're in a tough area like that, was that part of it? That the tough training, that everybody was doing it, and I could see the body changing you guys even from watching on. You could see, I mean, look at Kavanagh. I used to call him a string bean. Listen, he was far from that then. I mean, the power that he came, you could see it in all of you in terms of developing. So everybody, that was creating, I suppose, a bit of a bond along with the on-field stuff going right for you.
Well, I think, you know, when I look back to the, you know, that first Ulster and All Ireland in 2012, you know, they're great memories, and it's great memories of the family going to games and all the hype and that all around it. But nearly the most fondest memories are of going to training, and as you say, the bond that was developed on training, from training hard and seeing every man going through the pain barrier and working as hard as he possibly could to try and get fitter. And you know, the training was real. That was for me a real exciting time of those years, you know, because we trained really hard, and you know, you could see that everyone was on one page and pushing things on the one direction.
That's interesting, Colm, as I get a bit philosophical in my older age. I'm looking at things again, and if you base things on success, which I know sport is, but I just mean life in general, that I know Jim was always talking about the journey. I think he's that word trademark. But what he's saying is that this whole thing of your life and your family, your training, how your whole life works, and the camaraderie and the players and all that has to be enjoyed and for what it is, because those wee moments that when you win something, they're kind of very short lived. So you have to take you have to take the experience in.
You have to surely. You know, I mind we were training in Castlefin that time, and you know, I mind driving up, and I remember pulling the wee laneways you go into the pitch there, and you'd be totally looking forward to training, but you'd be as nervous as could be, because you knew what was coming, what was ahead of you, but you're actually looking forward to it too, which is a strange sensation. Like, but you know, there's some hard nights up there running 200s and that around the field, but you know, there's good times. I think that, as you say, as Jim always says, the journey was the big part of it. Yeah.
And listen, Michael, I was having the crack with him last night. Was there a session where he was giving off a bit and you had to talk him round? I heard that. That's seeped out to me. He didn't mention himself last night now, but...
Well, did he not? No, well, I know Donald Park, I think he was kind of... We're up and down the field now. He cracked, I think, just before the rest of us were about to crack too, that we couldn't hack these runs any longer. But, you know, that was the nature of it. Every man was, you know, on the edge of actually not being fit to do anymore, and You know, it's mad how hard we actually train when you look at, you know, the way the GPS is done now, and they're always very careful about not overtraining a man so he doesn't pull hamstrings or pick up injuries and that. But you know, I don't know, the amount of running we did and the amount of training we done, and we were able to avoid the injuries. But you know, I suppose Jim had a plan and he had a system in a way how it was going to work, and it did work.
Him and Rory were working well in them first couple of years too. Like both guys completely fanatical about it. You know, Jim had this master plan, and I think his confidence in his way, you know, meant he's unreal in the group. You know, brilliant talker. He just has that presence about him. He had the sports science. He had the history of 92 right through those years. He's seen what Armagh did, you know, he's seen what Tyrone did in terms of how we played against them. So he started to develop a plan that suit us, Colm, but he needed to use ultra fit first. Adam Spear comes in to do that. And as you say, that first year, 2011, I know we got the All-Ireland semi. What was the feeling then, Colm, at that All-Ireland semi? Maybe the famous one where we were still perfecting what we were good at.
Yeah.
It was a bit of booing. Donegal people didn't care. We were like, right, let's get the All-Ireland final. But did you think after that season, Colm, that the next season you were ready for a full-on tilt? Was that the kind of the feeling in the camp?
I think, you know, that game against Dublin, the semi-final, where I finished 8-6, was it, I think. You know, I look back, that's one of my great memories of that game, even though we came out in the losing side. You know, because Dublin, I think they fired up 20 or 21 points against Tyrone in the quarter final, and they were red hot, and we went in, I suppose we parked the bus, we got a lot of men behind the ball. But I remember Brogan and the two Brogans going up the line and trying to shoot from the sideline and putting it 20-30 yards wide, and we really had them rattled.
Yeah.
You know, until McMenamin came on the second half and we kind of ran out of steam. I think what did come out of that game was, you know, I remember being in the change room after and we're seriously disappointed, but it gave us a real hunger that we wanted to get back there again. And after that game, with the belief that we can compete with these boys, we just need to get a wee bit fitter. And Jim obviously told us that we need to work on an attacking plan as well. But it gave us that confidence and it gave us that hunger to try and get back to that stage again. And you know, I think probably if we had held on against Dublin that day and got to a final against Kerry and Kerry beat us, it might have been harder to lift it the following year.
Yes.
Which I think the semi-final losing the semi-final give us that hunger that we want to come back and go one step further the next year and get to an All-Ireland final.
Well, Colm, your form the next year, you know, you talk about having a good game. You were close to perfect in 2012. You're my footballer of the year all day, every day, all right? I just could not that I couldn't believe it, but just the level that you went to, you know, and I know the St. Michael's boys were saying if you were in the car with them, you were going to be half an hour late because you were out training. Your focus was unreal. You're also having a big impact in the dressing room in terms of your leadership as well and talking to people and helping other people around you. But your season then in 2012, Colm, what a run. And for you, did you miss a free the whole campaign? I can't remember. And where you were kicking him free?
I reckons I must have won on the first game against Gavin.
Nothing like Colm Senior. He has to pull it up somewhere.
I always meant to look back at the video of that game to see it, but it might have been out. I remember Murphy was injured that day.
Yes.
Or was he injured, or did he pick up an injury? I think he wasn't playing anyway.
It was from the other side, was it?
So it's from the other. I don't know, but we'll look back someday.
We'll let you in that, Colm, because listen, as I said, and most of your frees were difficult, Colm, but you just had an air about you that you was went through that campaign. And as I looked at the other teams we were playing, they all decided they play their own game against us, and we had a few ropey moments throughout that campaign. You know, as we went through games, we were up against it, Kerry and Cork at times, but there was a real kind of fortitude in the team where our game plan was going to overcome the opposition, and if we stuck to it, we would get the result. You had that feeling there from us.
No, just like I remember, there's the Cork game in particular was a big. In the first half, it was kind of point for point and up and down the field, and you know, the third quarter, I think they called it the moving quarter for us or whatever, and we go out in the second half that we always pushed on, and you know, we did in all those games, we nearly pushed on that stage, and we were kind of comfortable going into the end of the game. Now I know against Kerry it was shaky, they got a goal late on, and then the Nurbond into the box, and it was kind of nerve-wracking stuff like, but it was good times. I suppose it's just the way things went that year, and confidence, and we're all confident, and you know, we're getting more confidence as the games went on, and I think confidence is key to anything you're doing, no matter what it is in life, if it's work or if it's sport. You know, if you can get boys confident believing in themselves, you can do big things.
Yeah, and Colm, I want to ask you about the build-up to All-Ireland, and of course hitting 1-4 in that final. As every player, and you dream of playing the All-Ireland final, but you definitely dream of hitting the back of the net.
Aye.
I want to ask you what that felt like. Colm, we'll do it after this ad.
Hello, how can I help you?
I'm looking to claim on my insurance policy.
Okay, and what type of chip do you need to claim for?
It's not a chip. I was in a minor accident.
And was your windscreen chipped in this accident?
No, it's just my backlight and the bumper.
So your windscreen is not chipped?
No.
Unfortunately, our policies only cover chips.
Do you get the feeling that you're not getting the right cover? Well, at Local Insurance, we are Irish owned and understand your needs. Call us today for a bespoke quote on 0818 894 444. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back to DL Debate. I'm here with legend of Donegals GA, Colm McFadden. We're at the All-Ireland final, and we're at that point, Colm, where the build-up, absolutely crazy. Donegal is buzzing. I mean, such a lift you gave to the county. And I think the effort that you put in, everybody knew what you were doing. You got to an unbelievable level in terms of being at an All-Ireland final. We hadn't been there since '92, it was the only time we'd been there. How was the build-up to that before I get to your own performance in the final?
It was a crazy time, and I suppose I remember Kieran Donaghy from Kerry. He was working with Carol Lacey in the bank shortly before that, and he sent him an email and gave a lot of good advice on it. I know that advice definitely stood to us, because I suppose Kerry are in All-Ireland finals every other year, and they knew how to deal with the build-up, and he gave us different advice with regards to tickets. Get somebody in your family to deal with it, don't get involved in it. I suppose when you're out in public, everybody was speaking to you, so he said if you're going to the shop, make sure the phone's up to your ear. Yes. that you're busy, because people wanted, people all meant well, but you had to keep focused on what was the important thing. And it was nice to go playing an All-Ireland final, but you definitely wanted to go up and won that All-Ireland final as well.
Right. And the night before, Colm, what was it? Was it hard to sleep? Or what was going through your head? Because you had the work done, the preparation was all there, but you must be thinking the day of all days. Now, you were having an unbelievable season, as I say, Colm, but the confidence must have been high that you were going to play well, number one, and the team was going to win.
I suppose that's where the part of the game the Jim probably got right for us was the mental side of it, that he didn't sit us down and do stuff individually on it, but as a team, the way he spoke to us and that, he probably had us rehearsed or prepared mentally in that. And I suppose I don't remember much about the night before, but I got into a habit a couple of years before that about reading books before I go to sleep. Because remember we played Cork in that 2011 game, and I was twisting and turning the night before. I could not sleep, but I think it was 7 o'clock in the morning and I still wasn't sleeping. Right. So I knew at that stage I can't continue trying to play the next day if I can't sleep the night before. So I started reading books and that then before it, and that's kind of my routine before all games. After that, I would have read it out of my book, and it got your mind off the game, because if you start thinking about the game the next day and start thinking about trying to kick a point or a goal or whatever, you're going to thoughts are going to start racing through your head, and you'll not get any sleep at all.
Just the mindset of what Jim put into you there, Colin. I'm just saying how you got the best from yourself. Listen, his mantra right around the mindset, and I know he would have went deep 1-1, but you work hard, you do your job for the team, and basically you're fit, you're ready for this. I suppose it was a simplistic message as a team or as a squad in many ways, because if you all work for each other, you get your results. You could see there wasn't any pressure on anybody at all at any point in the team. In some ways, coming games before you, if you didn't score early on or if you missed a free or something, you might be under a bit of pressure. You didn't see that with you lads. So Jim had your focus completely on, I suppose, getting the very best out of each player individually, and then as a team you could really feel that off Donegal.
I suppose it was the game plan he had, and he would have said stick to the game plan, and there was a number of different points on that game plan. You had the defence, maybe you had 5 points, and the attacking game you had 5 different points, and same for the as a whole unit you took a number of different points. So we knew that if we stuck to that game plan, that we could take any team in the country. And I think, as you alluded to earlier on, like back in whenever we were playing ourselves together, we could turn around and beat any team, but we couldn't do it consistently. It's probably because we didn't have that nailed down game plan to fall back on. But we knew then when the pressure's on those big games, that if we fell back and just kept doing the right thing, that we could be successful, and even if, as you say, if we went a couple of points behind, if we just keep doing the points that he said, that we'd get there.
Yeah, and just as I say, Colm, that feeling of hitting the back of the net, I was saying that was a McFadden strike, hard, low. You knew what you're doing there, but what was that feeling? Or was it kind of, this is such a massive match, I put it in the net, head straight on? Or what was the kind of feeling going through your head when you hit the onion bag?
I suppose it came off. I remember McBurdy had the shot that day, and it came off the inside of the post, and I just reacted. And Keane from Mayo, he fumbled it and it fell to my hand, so I couldn't believe it. And I just knew there's a lot of bodies around me, and I had to keep it low. If I didn't keep it low, it would have been blocked. And I think always, if you keep it low and hard to the keeper's feet, they always find it hard to get down to. So it was a nice feeling to hit the net now. Remember back, I was up at the All Ireland final in 2011 between Cork and Kerry, and I was watching on. I was thinking, it'd be unreal to play out in an All Ireland final, and to think that, or 2010, sorry, that game was. To think 2 years later that I was actually out playing an All Ireland final, and to score a goal was special.
It was remarkable. And Colm, at the end, of course, the final whistle. But what was the feeling then? That this had happened, that you got to the pinnacle. All those years of playing from a wee lad, run about Creasla. That you got to this level. You an unbelievable season for you, Colm. As I say, I think you were our best player by far that season. That we went all the way. And I suppose the whole family tie-in with Jim and that as well. It must have been such a special time. So many St Michael's boys involved as well.
It was a surreal moment. It's nearly still hard to believe that we actually were out in the field that day. When you watch the 92 boys, and I remember watching it up at the cousin's house at home, and to think that we're there in that moment. And I suppose, as we say about the journey, that moment kind of goes very quick. But it was nice to win it. And I suppose the goals coming early that day. I remember thinking we're 7 points up maybe in that first half, and at that stage we were nearly kind of wishing the game away to get to the final whistle to get the result. So it was kind of a funny game in that way, but it was special, when we got onto the bus and the crowds in the street, and just the whole atmosphere, the whole thing was crazy.
Yeah, I know there was a lot expected you to come back, Colm. I know at one stage you had to pull away from the thing because you were going for this town to that town, and I suppose that's something about Jim too. He very much wanted to go to his place and give him the respect to say, we're not just going to, certainly where the club players is from. He wanted to go to every place, but that put a lot of pressure on you guys as well. I know you pulled out at one stage. I remember
I got as far as Newton. I think it was that,
because the boys were saying you were Newton. I heard it. You were like,
I've had enough. I had enough. I rang at even ultimate moment he came and picked me up, so I was shattered at that stage. But no, it was great. It was great times, and it was the buzz about the county and that. It was nice now.
Right, phenomenal. And Colm, of course, you took a year off in 2013, as everybody else did. We'll not mention that. We'll jump into 2014. Colm, of course, there was a fellow from Dublin writing a book about how, again, we changed football in terms of what we did to Dublin in 2014. If we go right into that, obviously, listen, nobody bypass the Ulster Championship with that, but obviously that game in particular, Colm, of all the games at that time, was one of the most famous. I mean, the marauding Dubs were going to just put us away. But again, we stuck to our system, we stuck to our guns. We had a dodgy opening in 10 minutes. Yeah. But again, we started to churn, and we come back and beat Dubs. And I remember the atmosphere that day, Colm, was up there with anything of that experience. You were so proud to be the Donegals man and what you did. Yeah, it was funny. If you speak to anybody now about football or about those times, they don't talk about the All Ireland in 2012. They talk about the Dublin game in 2014. And they all say we don't care, they just lost, or we didn't care what happened in the final as long as you beat the Dubs. And it was a game that everyone speaks about, and it was crazy the way it worked out. And I remember Ryan McHugh got the goal, and you could see what we were working on the lead up to that the couple of weeks before, 2 or 3 weeks before, that it was very likely that he was going to get on the end of a move to score a goal, and that's the way it panned out. And there's so much throughout Jim's time with us in Donegal that what he had prepared beforehand worked out exactly like that in the field, and I suppose that's things like that is what give us belief in what he was doing, because what he said to us, things followed through on it. But no, it was a big game that day, and it was supposed to we came in that day against Dublin in the back of beating or falling over the line against Armagh in the quarter final. We beat them by a point. McBurdy could have scored near the end, so there wasn't much expected of us, and Dublin were a serious outfit obviously then, so Yeah, the couple of goal chances early on, you wonder, listen, but there was just something about it at that time. I just remember a picture of Jim's brother, Frank. He was looking at the end of the game, you know, with such, I suppose, respect in terms of, well, how did you pull that off? You know, it was such a memorable time. There's a guy writing a book about it now because it changed the face of Dublin. They became a machine because of what we did. And of course, the final then, Colm are back. I mean, All Ireland finals, you know, they're not too plentiful in Donegal. Kerry, of course, completely changed tactics. The draw with Mayo, they come back and they went sweepers. O'Mahony came on, they nullified Murphy, and they became a real rigid force in the final. Colm, what's your memories of that game?
It's just a game that we just didn't get going in at all, you know, and it was obviously a very disappointing day. And I remember Kerry had their homework done and they were well prepared, and they knew to pull McGee out for the first goal and isolated
McGrath
and
Guinea
in front of the goals, like, for the high ball in. So you know, you have to give them credit for that. And you know, that's the thing about it. If you take not that we took the eye off the ball, but if you take any team for granted, I suppose at that level you're going to get punished. And you know, I don't think we really got going. I think maybe in the second half for about 10-minute spell. I remember McGee went up and kicked a point, and we kind of had a good spell. If we kicked 3 points in a very close succession, you thought, now we're going to roll on here and play to the way we can usually play. But you know, Kerry came back into it again and they got themselves over the line. But it's a disappointing one.
You hit the bottle of the post with a fist last.
The keeper kind of been a bit of a mess. I think McBird had half a shot and the keeper kind of fumbled it out to the side, and I knew it was a tight angle, and I just tried to get inside the post, and it clipped the post and went across the face of the goal. But you know, I think if we had got a draw that day, we would have been very, very fortunate.
Yes.
But I think, you know, if we got a replay, you know, I felt maybe, well, you don't know what's going to happen, but it'd be nice to get a second bite of the cherry. Yeah.
And what was the feeling then after that, Colm, in the next couple of years? Did you feel that there was another push could happen, or where was the squad then after that?
I suppose
it was a tough 4 years. It was a huge 4 years. You know, was there a feeling that not in any way that you were spent force, but there was so much put in that 4 years physically and what the team had? Did you think there was ability of another push after that?
Well, in particular, post 14, there's a massive push put in because we wanted to get back to one in Ulster, and what they called losing in an All-Ireland final takes a serious amount out of you as well. So you know, it was hard coming back the next year, and we were getting up in age as well, and with a lot of mileage done.
Yes. But, So I was just kind of think, Colm, then that, you know, the success that happened then, did you think then, right, that's me, we've hit the pinnacle, we almost go back there again? Was the physical pull on everybody, I mean, was it over and above kind of what other counties was doing, that you felt that this might be a bit much to go at this again?
I suppose kind of, but I think, you know, to get to that level, you know, you have to really push yourself physically. And I think mentally it was really draining as well. Like, it's, you know, you talk about the physical drain in your body, but mentally to keep going back and pushing yourself hard is very difficult as well. And that's why you have to admire Dublin to do what they've done, like to keep mentally being able to keep coming back and doing that year after year. You know, it was incredible, and I suppose even more so Mayo. You'd have to give them more credit because they come back after
defeat. That's what I'm saying. You can't disrespect these boys that keep getting to that. I know they always come up short. And again, that was against an absolutely brilliant.
They kept coming back, and you have to really admire that Mayo team for that, like, in fairness to them.
Yeah, well, listen, Colm, we are indebted to you for keep coming back until the famous 2011. What a phenomenal 4 years, Colm. We touched on most of it there. Brilliant time. For you, just on behalf of all of Donegal people, that was times to be treasured. What a career you've had, Colm. We really thank you for coming up here this evening and sharing that bit of life story here with us in the Deal Debate.
Thanks, Brendan. It's good talking to you.
Appreciate it, my man. Listen, Joe Dex producing, fair play to you as ever. We are heading for Park Esler this weekend. Oisin will be on commentary with Martin McHugh, and I'll speak to you on Monday.
Check this.